Good morning and happy Friday. We made it to another Friday, which is always good. Super excited to be here this morning with the latest edition of Cater Caffeine. I'm going to give it just a moment just so people can jump in, and then we're going to jump into things. All right. Welcome to Cater Caffeine. Super excited to be here. If this is your first episode, I'm going to share who I am and why we're here and what we do, and then we'll go over a topic. We'll talk about some of the things we've talked about in the past, just in case you want to go back and look at those for inspiration. A number of episodes starting last year around this time. So I think we're at our 1-year anniversary. Should have made myself a little cake or something this morning. If you have been here before, you'll notice I'm wearing glasses because it turns out I needed these with how much I'm staring at a computer. And they're fancy glasses, so now I can hear you through my glasses, which is weird. Take photos of myself, which I'll do now because I forgot I can do that. So having a little fun this morning. So what is Cater Caffeine? Cater Caffeine is a place that we can come together and we can learn and we can grow and we can share. It's a safe space where we talk about all things events and catering, the good, the bad, the positives, the negatives. I've shared stories of not getting promoted. I've shared stories of not being a great supervisor early in my career. For me, this isn't about jumping up on a pedestal and sharing how wonderful everything is, because it's not always. There are challenges that are tough. There are days that even though it's just food and we're not curing cancer, doing surgery, that it can be a lot. And Cater Caffeine is a place that we can come and talk through some of those situations, find some solutions, improve our situation, and hopefully become the best sales professionals we can be. It's a new intro for Cater Caffeine I've been working with. I kind of like it. So who is Jerome Dees Jr.? I am an award-winning sales professional. I was awarded, and I keep it behind me in all my calls, an award from the National Restaurant Association 2 years ago for leadership in the space. That's both for the work I've done growing and expanding and selling in the catering restaurant industry, and also for the work I do in the community. I do a tremendous amount of work in the community, from mentorship to volunteering. Every group that I've been a part of for the last 15 years, I've found a way to create programs within those groups to give back to local schools, to offer discounts to nonprofits, to be in a position where I believe with the school program I'm currently doing with Talkalicious, there are thousands of dollars that are going back to local schools through our dine-in program. I did not have the best upbringing. I did not have the most support. And now to be in a position where the work I do not only can take care of my family, but also the community is very important to me. Caffeine, Cater Caffeine. Still battling a little bit of a cold, so if I go into a coughing fit here in a moment, I apologize. My career started as a delivery driver right out of college. Didn't realize 2 degrees meant much, so I started as a driver for Noah's Bagels. 6 months into that, I decided it really wasn't for me. There was a promotion opportunity that I went for. I ran my own catering company and helped pay my way through college. Had a good amount of experience working in a dining hall, doing some kitchen work before that. All that came together and I got my first manager job. Had no clue what to do. I was handed a menu. I was handed an old book with some SOPs that didn't make sense, and I was told to figure it out. So I started using my degree and just common sense to try to organize things. I went on to get my master's degree, and that helped a lot in really fine-tuning what we did. And at the height of my time at Noah's, I was overseeing 55 locations. I had 100 direct reports between coordinators and drivers and other managers I was supporting. And I was overseeing stores in 3 states, which was wild. All the travel and the organization and having to figure out how to get this all done. It was a lot at times, but I was able to get through it. From there, I got my first director title with a group called Les Boulangers, local Bay Area restaurant group, served amazing sourdough bread, had multiple locations. Their events department, when I took over, was losing money. We turned that around literally in just 2 to 3 weeks. We started growing again, capitalizing on relationships with Kaiser and other local hospitals and nonprofits, and really just all the work that I had learned over the previous 8 years. I brought it in. We hit the ground running. Based on that work, I was asked to take over their wholesale division, which was a beast of itself. catering was maybe doing 3 million. I was handed a department that was doing 18 to 19 million. And we were able to get that growing, which was also in decline for a while. It was a lot of simple things, taking care of customers, taking care of our team, some of what we'll talk about today, morale and culture and how you impact things. Unfortunately, they sold that company based on the work we did. They realized that they could sell, which was good for them, not so good for me. So I went on to another group where I started off as a director, grew into a VP of sales, once again doing catering events, leaned into wholesale during the pandemic, was able to go from selling bagel 4-packs to pallets of bagels. So I do a lot of work in the CPG space as well, which brings us to today. I'm a VP of sales at Talkalicious. I'm a one-man team. So a lot of the episodes recently have been about how do we optimize things? How do we get the most out of our day? How do we, as a sales professional who's also trying to take care of their team, take care of yourself? Because I probably have, and if I could pull it up right now, if I'll throw it off my setup, there's probably 75 to 80 events that I'm managing right now, from weddings to bar mitzvahs to simple drop-off orders. And there's a lot going on, and organizing that when this memory, not the greatest, can be a challenge. But we look at the tools we have, we take a step back, we figure it out, and we push through it. I've been doing this a long time. I love what I do. I've been on maybe 100 plus stages across the United States talking about catering and events and sales strategy and networking and just how to put yourself out there, especially as an introvert sometimes, because I'd rather be at home in my sweatpants. And this is my Pro Start sweatshirt. And we'll talk about this in a moment. There's a reason I'm wearing a sweatshirt and I don't have on my quarter zip. So that's Jerome Dees in a nutshell. Here's a sample playbook. We're not going to jump in this today, but you can go in and look at what I think is a great resource that we've put together over the last year. There are different scripts for different calls you should be doing, keeping yourself organized. There's an area for planning for your upcoming year, depending on when that is. Most people have the calendar year, but some people do a fiscal year. So you might be going into your new year right now. There are also resources in there for what do you do if things slow down? Because I had a stretch a little while ago where things slow down considerably. In catering and events, it's peaks and valleys. I'm in a period right now where I'm on my 5th day of the period. We just started P4 and I've already exceeded my target for the entire period. If the period stopped now and I jumped forward to April 26th or whatever date it is, I've already exceeded my goal, which is phenomenal. So now everything we add on for the next few weeks is all gravy. Whereas there were a few months ago where I was like, am I even a great sales manager? What's even going on with the world? Why did people stop spending money? So we have to make sure that we're managing those different levels and putting things in the right buckets at the right time. So please look at the sales playbook, some great resources. Looks like I might have a question here. Let me make sure I'm not missing anything. Oh, just a quick good morning. Good morning to you as well, Terry. So quick recap. This is once again, if you want to look back on the YouTube channel and see previous episodes, maybe what we talked about today isn't relevant or isn't what you need to hear today, but there might be another episode that you need. In addition to myself, there's so many other talented. I'm still confused why I'm here sometimes looking at some of the other people that are doing episodes, but feel free to look on the YouTube channel for Cater Linked as a whole. Amazing resources. There are others who do this type of session throughout the week, so check those out as well. We talked about contact types and just the playbook in general. If you don't have a sales playbook, start putting one together. It can be super simple. I always have little notepads that I do stuff in. Just start writing out what your organization is, how you do things, the cadence of your sales calls, how do you organize your sales activities. Write it all out, then organize it in a way that if you were promoted tomorrow out of your role, could the next person step in and figure out what needs to be done? Part of the culture I'm trying to build is if you have a question, you can ask me as many times as you need. I'll answer it. I'll support you because I want that from my supervisor. But I also want to be in a position where if I got hit by a bus and I was unavailable, that my team could still pick this up and look at it. Part of that's a sales playbook. Part of that is a daily checklist I have, something I don't think I've shared yet. So maybe I'll do a whole session next time on just the daily checklist I have and the different touch points we have, just to make sure we're being consistent with what we do on a daily basis. Talked about having an ideal customer profile. This is who you want to target as a sales professional. Imagine there's that bell curve, and there's some people on the outsides that are going to order occasionally, but they're not really who you target. Something that comes up is we do quite a few remembrances or memorial services, both in our private dining space and at locations where customers ask us to come in. That's not business I'm going after. Talklish is fun and vibrant, and we don't take ourselves seriously. Whereas memorials are typically more reserved, more quiet. Now, when people come to us for one of these, typically the person loved Talkalicious, came in a lot, so we can still have some fun with that. There are more celebrations, but not always. That's not business I go after. Not that I don't trust my team to be reserved and respectful during those, but it's just not who we are. It's a little disjointed with who we are. Whereas the corporate business, we do a ton of business where we will show up, we'll pop up in a kitchen, we'll set up a table, we're shaking margaritas. We can turn your boring atmosphere into a great evening cocktail mixer. And that's stuff that we do. So as I'm making my sales contacts, I have a very specific segment that I go after for those. A delivery for us starts at $500 food and beverage minimum. Full service is $1,000 food and beverage minimum, and you get a couple drinks per person. We're typically looking at 4K for 25, 30 people. I will take that all day long. The tips are higher for my team. So there are lots that go into the ideal customer profile, which also plays into culture. If you can get the larger orders and your team gets a percentage of that, which my team does, I can tell you which my team prefers to do. Are you dedicating time to selling? You have to dedicate time. I am a team of one, but I do have a couple people that can come in and do what we call admin shifts, where they can do some of my busy work, for lack of a better way to say it. I scheduled one this week. I was able to get through all my prior order contacts for the period 4. I have reminders set, sometimes reaching out to people and catching them at the right time. I love when I get an email back. We'd love to do that again. Please replicate our last order. Here's the new date. Some of the easiest money I make, and I usually have a dozen of those per month just because I'm reaching out and I'm checking in, which is part of the context that we talked about early on. Are you doing that research? Are you doing secret shops, both with yourself and with those you're competing against? I will stand behind that. I try not to talk bad about other organizations, but I can speak intelligently about them. If their delivery fee is higher, if their service fee is higher, if they're charging more for their box meals than we are, it's okay to use that to your benefit. Hey, I understand that you have a quote from this group as well. We actually order from them from time to time, so I get it. I will tell you, based on what I'm sharing, the package that you have is just A and B, whereas the package we're doing is A, B, C, and D. If you're just looking for A and B, I can pull C and D out. That's going to get your price down. We're good to go. Otherwise, I just want to make sure you're looking at it apples to apples. And a lot of times people aren't. They see a cheaper price. They'll start competing against you. And then because we want the sell, we'll start competing against her. Oh, yeah, I can discount it. No problem. I'd love to match that price. Sometimes matching the price isn't matching the price. As we do our research, as we do our secret shops, we learn about other groups, especially those that people often say, oh, it's between you and this group. Whatever that group typically is, you should check them out. I'm big about having sales process, especially for our first time orders. How do we reach out to people? How do we connect with them? How do we get those into our pipeline for other calls? Because your pipeline isn't just new potential customers. It's also keeping those that you have in your system ordering. And after I do all that work to get someone to order and I get to their first order, they go right back into my pipeline so that I can push them to get to that second order and to get to that third order if possible. Because I was always taught, going back to Monkey Media, that if you get to that third order, you're probably in good shape. So I always look at what order are they on. If they're on 2 and we seem to have a gap between that and seeing that next order, maybe it's free delivery, maybe it's free X. I try not to do percentage discounts because those get messy, but what can you do to keep driving those who already know you? You don't have to sell them, you don't have to convince them. How do you push those to keep ordering? Talked about it briefly, but what do you do when times get slower? Right now is not one of those times. If you're a Mexican food restaurant, you're marching towards Cinco de Mayo, which is exciting and scary. Fun fact, this is the first time since 2020 that Taco Tuesday and Cinco de Mayo will be on the same day. That won't happen again until 2037. So if you're selling Mexican food, that's a fun fact to share with people as you're convincing them to book for Cinco de Mayo. We talked about quarter four. Really, this could stand for any quarter you're entering, and just a shorter, like, I have my plan for the year, but what can I do for this next quarter to adjust and make sure I get the most out of it? Talked about leadership, talked about planning for 2026, which you're in. We talked about having a scorecard, something that's visual that you can share with your team on a weekly basis, the wins, the losses, your results, how you are at a budget, if you want to share your sales contacts. Because even when things were slower, my team knew I was working because I was sharing those contacts. On a good week, I reach out to 75 to 80 people right now. Once again, I'm a one-man team, so I'm having to do all the admin and accounting and everything that comes with it. But on a good week where I know that I'm slow and I need it, I'm going to crank out 150 to 200 contacts, emails, phone calls, sometimes text messages with customers I know that well. That's information you want to share. Hey, we may be down for the week, but I've ramped up my sales activities. I know that when I contact people, typically 2 to 3 weeks out, we see that. So I expect that even though we're down this week, in 3 weeks, I expect to see that offset with, you start putting this all together. You start being able to sell internally with the work that you're doing. And then I had a session. I thought it was a good session. The last one, if I were starting over, what would I do differently? Feel free to check that out if you're feeling stuck, or if you're feeling like things aren't progressing. It is there for you. So since the last time we chatted, which I believe was in January, I'm way too happy here. I get it. I participated in the California Association Restaurant Cup. They bring students together who share business plans. And one of those teams went a trip to Baltimore, and that's where the sweatshirt comes in. This is I spoke at, it was the National Restaurant Association. They do an invitational for all these teams. So they're going to Baltimore to compete against other teams from all across the United States. So I was able to go and to network and to help select the team that's going to nationals. And then that team, based on the feedback I gave them, asked if I would do a session with them where I would go over other thoughts and help them improve their business plan. And I share this because your actions, how you treat people, it's all going to play into your company culture, which is what we're actually going to jump into now. Some of my sessions, you'll go back and you'll see they were pretty well thought out. Not that this one isn't, but today's going to be a little bit more of just a discussion, less slides, more talking. As I've been thinking about my team and what I'm doing to support them, and how what I do impacts both culture internally, how people view our culture from other organizations or customers view us, I'm reminding myself that my team matters more than anything. And not to say I've neglected them, but starting in November, we had a workforce reduction. As the sole member of my team, there was a lot to figure out. I was taking on 2 other full-time jobs and trying to sort that out. And there were things that were not getting done. There were conversations that were not happening. There were individuals doing things that I knew they were doing, but I did not have the bandwidth to address them. And that impacts morale. I had 2 individuals who did not want to work together at all. And I had to have a very hard conversation recently. But you have to have those occasionally. Not only can great teams positively impact your sales, but negative teams can hurt them. If I have staffed events where we're going to set up in an office, but one of those staff members just disappears for 45 minutes during service, and now service is slow because we're not serving the way we need to, or I have one person bouncing between stations, just doesn't look great. So there are things that you do that are going to impact things, but you also have to be aware of your team and what they're doing and how they're interacting with others, because it makes a difference. If someone asked you right now to describe your current culture, what is your culture? How would you describe it? I want you to actually think about this for the rest of today, or if you watch it later, how would you describe your culture? I want you to write it down. Now, I will say, for me, culture's sometimes been this thing that's hard to articulate. You know it when you're in it. You feel it when you're in different organizations. I can think back to Lebu, and they had, I think, a good culture when I started. But as I got in, and I think I've shared some of this in the past, I wrote a business plan and we didn't have one for the rest of the organization. We did a mission, a vision, and a value statement, and we hung it up above my desk. So anybody who came into my office saw it. Any decision we made, we based it off of those values. And if I was doing something that didn't align with something that we said we wanted to move towards, my team had the right to call me out. And if I couldn't defend why that thing was moving towards our ultimate mission, or I couldn't defend why that thing was helping me with something moving towards that mission, we had to ask why we were doing it. Those are tough conversations sometimes, but it created a culture where people felt safe coming to me and saying, "Hey, I don't understand why we're doing this. Can you explain it to me?" And there were some things where I was like, "I don't know why we're doing that either." It's something we were doing before I started. We just kept doing it. But now with the culture we have, because sales are growing and people don't want to stop us being up $250,000 above last year, typically you're going to get that leadership support. And hey, I think this is a vestige of something we did in the past. We don't need to do it anymore. So how would you describe your current culture to someone? The definition of culture that I've run with, and it's not the greatest definition, but your culture is the worst thing you allow to happen. So in my example, where I know I have two people that don't get along, but I'm still staffing them together, and I know it's not going to be cute, but I'm doing it because I felt like I didn't have a choice because of the schedule or whatever, that's on me. But also knowing that one or two of them are doing things that aren't to our standard, to our SOP, to what we need done, that's on me as well. So how would you describe your culture to someone? Write it out. Are there things happening right now today that you know are happening that you just haven't dealt with? If the answer is yes, I'm going to encourage you. And feel free to shoot me a message on LinkedIn, add me on Instagram, shoot me a note. I'm happy to chat with you. They're not always fun conversations. As part of this, I've started, or I reinstitute something I did in the past called a 10-minute conversation. It's literally a 10-minute call where there are 10 categories. One of them's others, so if something doesn't fit, but it's super simple. Are you on time for your shifts? Are you in uniform? Are you a team player? Are you following the standards for putting orders together? Are your orders rung up correctly? Because my team, they'll put food together, they'll deliver, they'll come back, they manually ring stuff up into the SOP because we don't have integration because it's 2026. Why would things be integrated? And then they send me a recap of everything they did to make sure that everything was done correctly. We quickly go through these 10 categories. They have this sheet ahead of time. They know it's coming. There's no surprises. If there's something that has come up, I address it very honestly. And I'll let people know these 10-minute conversations, these aren't on the official record. These aren't part of your HR file. This is me having a conversation with you. Here's something I've noticed. If we can get it turned around, we never have to talk about it again. But if we talk about it again next month or in 6 weeks when we do our next 10-minute conversation set, then we will have to have a more serious conversation. You're treating adults like adults. You're sharing with them things that you see that could be done better, and you're giving them an opportunity to address them before it needs to become a verbal conversation that you have to document or a write-up that you have to document. We're all human. We all go through things. We all have bad days. Having a little bit of grace and giving people understanding, that is a way to build positive culture. If you are giving people the benefit of the doubt and treating them well, especially through these difficult conversations, because I had one where 6 out of the 10 categories, I had to address something that we had just let go for too long. It wasn't really fair to that employee, but I do think it was nice to draw that line and to move forward. So figure out what your culture is, what you think your culture is. If you're not sure, ask other people within your organization, like, hey, what do you think our culture is? Outline it for me. And then do what you need to address and adjust. One of the things that I think is very important, and if as or an organization you don't have this, come up with a mission, a vision, and have values that you believe in, that your department believes in, because you can do these for department only, like I did at Le Boulanger. Organization as a whole didn't have stuff, but we did. Have something written out. Use AI. We're using AI for everything. If you're a well-known brand, tell it, hey, I'm Talkalicious. I oversee the events department. I heard a webinar today. A guy told me to do this. I need a mission statement, a vision, and values for our group. Here's generally what we do on a weekly basis. Type out some things, let it figure it out. And then what it gives you, tweak it, compare and contrast. You're basically brainstorming with artificial intelligence, which is a fun thing to do sometimes. Keep working on it until you get something you like. And then as you go back and you're doing your sales plan for the year, as you're looking at your sales targets for a quarter, use the mission, the vision, and the values to guide that process, but also with how you interact with your employees. Part of our mission at Les Boulangers was to be the best part of someone's day. And it was funny because my team, especially as we hired new people, were like, well, how am I supposed to do that? And for me, as silly as it was, you can be the best part of someone's day just by doing what you said you were going to do and being invisible, especially when it came to the memorial services or those super important office lunches. That I've had admins on the phone with me in tears because we ran late and now they thought their job was at risk. It's a scary position to be in. Your mission, your vision can impact how you want to work with customers, how those interactions can go. It can be how you want to treat people internally. Part of my set was that I wanted to treat internal customers better than we treated external customers. And that is a bold statement to make. It is something that is hard to live up to at times when you are overwhelmed and overtaxed. And the last thing you want to do is deal with two people that are grown adults who are bickering over this person who does the. It's like, I just want y'all to figure it out. But also, as the leader that I want to be, I want to get in and help y'all figure it out because I want you to be in a position to be successful and for the team to be able to do what they need to do. Or I need you to be in a position where you realize this isn't for you and we find someone else that can, because what we do isn't a fit for everybody. Everybody isn't hospitality minded. Everybody isn't, I can get out there and shake a margarita and smile and be joyful. While I'm also thinking about the timeline I have and the fact that I need to get people on lunches and the fact that this and maybe our warmer isn't working. So now how am I going to do all while you're shaking it's a lot sometimes. So have a mission statement, have a vision statement, have values that are typed out that your team understands. And then as you're looking to impact your culture, to build your culture, to change your culture, you have a North Star, a guiding light, something that is leading that process for you. In addition to that, there are ways I think that you can impact your culture on a daily basis. Culture isn't pizza parties. Culture isn't just hourly wages, although those are important. We can't discount the fact that people need to make money to pay bills. But for me, it's recognition, it's celebration, it's understanding that people are people and they're going to have rough days. And I've yet to, in my 20 years of doing this, yelled at an employee that I work with. I understand that people think that's necessary and that it has to happen, but I will never demean or talk down to an employee that I have. If we have someone not doing what they need to do, 10-minute conversation, another 10-minute conversation, documentation, we'll move on from you. But these are grown-ups. These are people that I am supporting so they can do their jobs to the best of their abilities. I've never found a reason to raise my voice or to talk down to someone in order to get that done. So that's part of it too, is that I'm treating people as well as I can. We celebrate success. We did this at a grand scale at Les Boulangers. We had a year where I put up all my goals for the year at the beginning of the year so people could see it. And at the end of the year, we had, I think it was 28, 29 balloons filled with confetti. And we rolled up those goals and put them in there. And people popped balloons, confetti went everywhere. They read over what we said we were going to do. And then up on the wall, we had those targets being achieved. So they would match them up. It was this very visual, very high energy. Look, we said we were going to do all this. Not only did we do it, but we went on to do even more. We said we were going to do 100%. We actually did 150%. So we did more. We said that we were going to lower our instance of code reds, and we were less than 2% for the whole year. Having thousands of orders and only 2% of those had something wrong, to me, that was an amazing. I was more excited about that than some of the other things because now we're not doing refunds and discounts. I think you get the point. I do that on a smaller scale here. we have a Slack channel that I use to communicate everything that's happening to my team. It is on them to check that, to at least make sure that notifications, if they're named, come up. We had a driver that did a great job setting up, really great with the customers. Customer gave us a glowing review. I shared it in Slack. I tagged the customer. Everybody on my team can see it. Store managers are in there so they can see it. I want that recognition to happen. Because if I need to have a tough conversation and someone says, well, I don't understand, you don't point out any of the positive. Well, I do, because I could go back to dozens upon dozens of instances of me pointing out the good and sharing the good. Let's focus on what we're talking about now. And I've had that happen in the past, and I've had to reset the mindset because sometimes we see what we want to see. In addition to celebrating, you have to have those challenging conversations. You are not doing anybody any favors by watching somebody do something that's hurting them or the team and not saying something. This is a tough one for me because I don't like conflict. I don't like those conversations. I don't know many people that do. But I also recall that early in my career, I was doing things that were not helping my progress the way I wanted, and nobody was saying anything to me. I kind of knew I was doing them, but I also felt justified in my positions. Sometimes I was, sometimes I wasn't. But I finally had someone who pulled me aside and told me that I needed to pull my head out of and I needed to get my stuff together because the work I was doing with sales and the team overall was great. But there were supervisors that I butted heads with, that I wasn't getting along with. And if they were communicating how I was treating them, how would they think I was treating other people any differently? They had a point. So I was driving that negative culture, and I was asking to be promoted. But how could I be promoted if this is the way I was treating those people that could promote me? It wasn't a great situation. So you want to make sure you're having those tough conversations. I wish my supervisor, and it wasn't my supervisor, pulled me aside, would have pulled me aside and said, hey, here's what I'm seeing. You keep asking to get promoted, but you're also doing X, Y, Z. Here's what I would want to see from you. What was challenging about that is that as I moved to another organization, I was able to do the things I needed to do. Have those tough conversations. You owe it to your team. Everybody who leaves your company is going to be an alumni, and they're either going to say, oh yeah, Jerome was great to work with. I wish I could have stayed, but I was offered more money, or it was easier for me to get to, so I had to leave. Or they're going to say, yeah, Jerome, like, oh my gosh, that guy, I don't know, like, he seemed like something was off, but he wouldn't tell me. Like, that's not what you want. So just remember to treat people the way you want to be treated. Lean into what works. There are things that you're doing today that you know don't work, but we keep doing them because we've always done it this way. When I'm making sales calls, if there's a specific type of call that I'm making, I'm not getting results, I will shy away from that call. There are calls I have to do. I have to reach out to prior year customers. Someone spent $8,000 last year in April. I need to know if you're going to spend that again this year. And if you're not, I know I have an $8,000 hole I need to fill. I need to reach out to first-time customers, especially those that I didn't bring in for that first order that found us online or went into a store and someone gave them a menu. I want to know who you are. Where'd you come from? How often do you order? How many people do you know who order? This is stuff that you're figuring out as you're cold calling and building relationships with people. With new people, I need to know that. So if I have a tough week where there are hundreds of contacts I'm supposed to make, and one of those is first-time orders, I'll sort those. I'll sort out the people that I brought in, and I'll hyper-focus on the people that I didn't. Lean into what works. Organize your work in a way where you can be successful, because one of the ways I impact culture is I bring in sales, and I bring in the right sales so that my team has hours. And when my team has hours and they're getting 65% of the 20% service charge we charge, so that means if it's a service charge of $500, they're walking away with $350 for a shift that's 2.5 to 3 hours. Your team will be happy. Morale will be good if you're handing out those types of shifts. And then one thing that I try to do to the best of my abilities is I try to put people into positions that I'd want to be in. As I'm working on my staff schedule, which I do each Thursday or Friday, I see that we have a delivery. It's 12 o'clock, so that team member is going to start at 10. Well, it's a little bit of a larger delivery, or it's a little bit further out. Oh, well, it's going downtown. I know they have to go to a loading dock, and that's going to take 30 minutes between security. So I'm going to start them earlier. I'm looking at these situations and I'm putting myself into that position. If I were there, would I appreciate that extra 30 minutes? If I were doing this order, would I be okay putting together 90 box lunches by myself in 30 minutes? Well, absolutely not. So, should I bring in a second person? Should I reach out to the store to let them know that we're going to need someone to come in a little bit early to help with that? I try to, and I think I do it to a good extent, put people into positions that I'd want to be in. And as I'm explaining to someone on my team why I'm doing something, I'll share it just like that. Hey, I want to talk to you about this upcoming event. Here's what I'm seeing. I want to put you in a great spot. I'm not sure I'd be okay with this, but I know you're better at this than I am. You can compliment people. How would you feel about this timeline? And sometimes they'll tell you, no, you're crazy. We got that. Don't worry about it. We're good to go. And sometimes your team, who's doing this work every single day, is going to see things that you don't see. And they may say, hey, I understand what you're seeing, but with this specific event, XYZ, by adding on 45 more minutes, doesn't cost you that much labor wise. I know I'm collecting that much in fees. You can support your team. You can show them that you're thinking about those things. And you can put both your internal customer in a good position to be successful and your external customer in a position to get that great service so that the next time they think about tacos or they think about an event, oh my gosh, Jerome and his team were amazing. Let's bring them back in. Those are the things that go a long way. I can't even tell you the number of reviews I get back where for a full service event, the host remembers the name of the team members that came out. We don't share that information, but to get back an email that says, hey, Victor and Michelle and Lucas and Anthony were great. They're very attentive. I love that. We put that in our system. We share that on Slack. We make sure that everybody's aware. That way we continue to build those behaviors as well. Something that I want to remind you, are you following up? And this is sales activities. I hope you are. I hope you're following up with customers. If you're using the right system, I have an automated message right now that goes out the day after we trigger it. And that will ask people how things went and remind them that we do other things. I get a lot of feedback from those. Sometimes I'll go back and look at orders for the last couple of weeks. Oh, there's a $3,000 order. They probably deserve more of it than an automated message. So I'll send a secondary message. I see that the automated message went out. I just thought you deserved a little bit more than that. Wanted to say thank you again. Phrase it the way you want. But are you following up? But are you following up with your team? If you see that they had a tough shift, if you know that you messed up a timeline and they ran behind, if you know the parking situation was tough, these are things that you can shoot a quick text message. Hey, I just want to let you know I appreciate you. I saw things got a little dicey. Appreciate you pushing through it. Here's what I'll do differently in the past. Or, hey, I saw in your feedback form that you sent in after the event that you and the person you're working with didn't quite get along. I can't talk about what I talk about with other employees. That's not what I do, but I do want to let you know that I see it, I acknowledge it, that I have it on my list. Make sure you're following up with your team. If you see something adverse, if you know something's going on, make that time to check in, to follow up, to see what you can do to support them. I'll be mindful of the small things. Small things turn into big things. Big things impact culture. Sometimes letting something go. I was in a store. I saw one of my servers not in their uniform. I knew they weren't in their uniform, but I was walking into a meeting. That meeting could have waited 2 minutes for me to pull them aside and be like, hey, I just want to remind you that for full service events, you're supposed to be black and black. I just need to make sure because, it's what the customer is expecting. And, you do such good work. I don't want something simple. And they may tell you, hey, I had a bad day. Hey, my laundry machine broke down. There are a million reasons why people, fair enough. I'll put it on the next 10-minute conversation. As long as it doesn't happen again, we're good. But you have to address those things because if they think they're getting away with something, or if you're not pointing those things out, maybe they forgot. I find that hard to believe, but you have to keep on keeping on with those small things. I work remote, so my team is very independent. So I do ask my store managers. I have a couple supervisors on my team. If you see something that's not right, you got to let me know. You can say something as well. And I have just a master list of all this stuff that comes up. And if I see the same person's trying to get away with something consistently, for me, that becomes an integrity thing. And that is not a small thing because integrity is very important. Culture is very important. You impact it on a daily basis with what you do, what you say, how you act, how you interact. You set the tone for your organization, be it you as a leader or be it you as an employee, which I did poorly during my time at Noah's, especially early on, where I could have been a better support for those above me. One of the things I've adopted is I try to be the least of the concerns for the person supervising me. Every day I'm thinking, what can I do to be less of a burden, to be less of a concern? I want to come in, I want to do my work, I want to hit my sales targets, I want to make things easier for people. I want, if I were to be offered another job, I want my supervisor to come to me and say, there's no way you're leaving. What will it take? Which happened at Le Boulanger. Culture was great. Sales were strong. I got an offer to join another organization, opened my mouth to someone, and they went to my supervisor. They literally cornered me in an office and told me I couldn't leave based off the work I was doing. And that is how I got my first senior director title. I was able to get a little bit more money. I was able to get a little bit more of a flexible schedule. I realized that blocking is spelled incorrectly there, and I apologize. This is my first cup of coffee, and we worked on this morning, which may have been a mistake. My reminder for you, outside of what we talked about today, is are you doing the sales activities you should be doing? Are you blocking time the way you should? It is easy to get busy and to move away from the things that helped you get busy. So, my reminder to you today, look at your calendar for next week. Color coordinate it like I do. Red is meetings or things that maybe you don't want to do, admin work, accounting work, credit card processing, depending on your systems. There are things that I have to do on a daily, weekly basis I don't want to do, but they need to get done. But my sales activities are in green. And this week, my calendar is a little more green. For whatever reason, we were slower, not much came in, gave me time to reach out to all the prior year order customers to catch up on tasking, to reach out to people with pending orders. I was able to get a bunch of stuff done. My calendar is very green this week, which means 2 to 3 weeks out, I know that results will start coming from the work I did this week, which is great because that's the last week of the period. I want to finish strong. It all starts coming together. Make sure, please, 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 that you're blocking time and that you're plugging in those sales activities and you are sticking to it no matter what. Because at the end of the day, as sales professionals, if the sales aren't there, everything else starts to fall apart. And with that, with 2 minutes to spare, my friends, I am going to wish you again a happy Friday. I hope your coffee is strong. I hope your results are solid. I hope that you have taken something from this where you can start positively impacting your organization's culture to where you can start treating people the way you want to be treated, putting them in a position to be successful. So as they're out representing your organization, they're able to treat people well. They're able to get people to realize that you're a great solution for catering events, all the things that you do, and that you start getting that repeat business, all of a result of building a culture that has an impact both internally and externally. Have an amazing Friday. Until next time,